Morning, students. Today we'll discuss about histamine. What is the mechanism of action of histamine? Mechanism of action of antihistamines. Classify antihistamine drugs, different group of drugs. Then the therapeutic uses of antihistamines, their side effects, contraindications, drug interactions, and various adverse drug reactions. So, what are autocoids? Auto means self, and coids means remedy. So autocoids are the endogenously released substances which has got biological activity. So they are also called as local hormones because they act as local hormones in specific tissues as compared to hormones which are being secreted from endocrine glands like insulin and thyroxine. So they have an important role as physiological role and pathological role. So they have an important role to play in inflammation, that is a pathological state, pain, allergy and hypersensitivity reactions, smooth muscle tone and blood pressure, GI functions, hemostasis, and many other functions like they control the acid secretion in the stomach. They play an important role in hypersensitivity reactions. They act as neuromodulator and neurotransmitters through different receptors. So, different types of autocoids we have amines, histamine, and serotonin already being taken, I think, serotonin. Then, icosanoids, we have prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and thromboxane. Prostaglandins will be taken up in next class. Vasoactive peptides, kinins, and renins, angiotensin, natriuretic peptides, vasopressin, peptide, and substance P. Then we have endothelial derived substance nitric oxide, which is a potent smooth muscle relaxant. Histamine is an important mediator of allergic and inflammatory reactions. They also play an important role through different receptors in gastric acid secretion. So they are important secretagogues and important role to play in peptic ulcer. So different receptors they play an important role as neurotransmitter and neuromodulator. So we'll see in subsequent slides. It is located in mast cells, basophils, platelets, and enterochromaffin cells in cells of stomach as well as on brain. So in brain, they have important role to play as neuromodulator and neurotransmitters. On mast cells and basophils, they act as a important mediator of inflammation in hypersensitivity reactions, antibody reactions, and in stomach through different receptors, they are going to play an important role in secreting gastric acid secretion. So we'll see how they are having a physiological as well as pathological roles. Histamine is synthesized from amino acid histidine, which is present in high amount in lungs, skin, GIT, as well as in mast cells and basophils. There are four different types of histamine receptors: H1, H2, H3, and H4. All these four receptors are G protein coupled receptors. H1 receptor is mediated through GQ, which stimulates the which stimulates inositol 3 phosphate. H2 receptors is GS, which stimulates adenyl cyclase. H3 receptors are inhibitory because they are pre-synaptic and autoreceptors. They inhibit the cyclic AMP, and H4 they are they decrease cyclic AMP formation. So according to different sites, all these receptors are located in the body. H1 receptors play an important role in allergic and hypersensitivity reactions. H2 play an important role in acid peptic disease because they are secretagogues. They secrete peptic acid. And H3 and H4 important. H3 is autoreceptor and the H4 they are important role in neuromodulation. So, as I've just mentioned, histamine is being secreted on mast cells and basophil, and it is being complexed as intracellular granules with acidic proteins. So, in case of any antigen invasion in the body, the antibodies IgE, which is present on mast cells and basophils, they are being secreted. These it's a stimulus. The stimulus leads to synthesis of or release of IgE antibodies from mast cells, which causes degranulation of mast cells and basophils, and this is in response to any antigen invasion. This is antigen antibody reaction or type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So other mediators of inflammation are also being released along with that, like vasoactive amines, substance P, or slow reactive substance. We have prostaglandins, but antihistaminic drugs are going to counteract the action of only histamine, so they are not as potent as compared to other drugs. So primarily they are in response to stimuli, which can be in terms of chemical stimuli or it can be a mechanical stimuli. Chemical stimuli, like it can be drugs like penicillins or D-tuberculin, or it can be amides, which leads to histamine release, or mechanical can be dermatitis or some metals which comes in contact with the skin and is going to release histamine, or some radioactive iodine substances as chemicals, which can lead to release of histamine in the body, and it leads to inflammation and allergic reactions. So any stimuli which causes release of histamine will, will lead to destruction of the cells, can lead to release of bacterial toxins. Any sting like bee sting, venoms, or mosquito bite, or trauma, extreme cold, they are also going to release histamine. So in case of any allergic reactions and type 1 anaphylactic reactions, it triggers the release of histamine from the body. And antihistaminic drugs have an important role to counteract all these allergic and anaphylactic reactions. So overall, histamine plays an important role is a physiological as well as pathological. So physiological in terms of as a neuromodulator and gastric acid secretion, and pathological in case of your anaphylactic reactions and allergic reactions. It is being metabolized by histaminase by methylating enzyme, which is methyltransferase. Mechanism of action of histamine is through different receptors like H1, H2, H3, and H4. So mainly H1 and H2 receptors are mainly responsible, and accordingly the site where they are present, they exhibit different physiological as well as pathological roles. H1 receptors are present postsynaptically. H2 receptors are also present postsynaptically. H1 receptors are present mainly on smooth muscles, the bronchial smooth muscles of the GIT, exocrine glands, brain, and endothelium. H2 receptors are present on gastric mucosa, heart, and mast cells. H3 receptors are they are presynaptics, or also called as autoreceptors. So they are present on nerve endings, brain, and they inhibit the release of various neurotransmitters because they are autoreceptors. So if we see the different roles of H1 and H2 and H3 receptors according to the different sites they present. H1 receptors on endothelium, it causes vasodilatation of the small blood vessels. This vasodilatation is very rapid, and this takes place at low concentration of histamine as compared to your H2 mediated response we'll see in the subsequent slide. So vasodilatation of the small blood vessels will lead to redness, flushing, and hypotension. Smooth muscles, especially in GITs, causes contraction and increases the permeability of post-capillary venues. It leads to edema and urticaria. Then stimulation of nerve endings at the sensory neuronal receptors, which causes itching, pain, and flare. This also causes constriction of the smooth muscles of the ileum, especially in guinea pig and experimental animals, and especially smooth muscle contraction in humans which are having a history of asthma. So bronchoconstriction is a hallmark feature in asthmatics. Edema, urticaria, itching, pain, flare. They all are characteristic features of hypersensitivity reactions, the type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. So important role to play in brain is they act as a neuromodulation. They act to control appetite, they decrease appetite, they controls H1 receptors, they control your body temperature, blood pressure. So these are neuromodulatory effect of H1 receptors, and we'll see the specific H1 receptor antagonists which are going to cause side effects by blocking H1 receptors. And these side effects are mainly because of all these blocking of the H1 receptors. Now H2 receptors, they are responsible for secretion of gastric acid. They cause direct cardiac stimulation. So they are secretagogues. They contribute to peptic ulcer because they are secreting more gastric acid. So cardiac stimulation is, it's not that clinically significant as compared, because it is more because of baroreceptor reflex. So vasodilatation on vascular smooth muscles, as I've mentioned, as compared to H1 receptors, is slow and prolonged because it occurs at higher concentration, and this leads to again hypotension. Both H1 and H2 receptors, they act as neuromodulatory action in brain. As I've told, they control your appetite, they control your temperature, they control the blood pressure. So all these are neuromodulatory actions. H3 is present presynaptically, so it will inhibit the release and synthesis of histamine. The action is unknown. And H4 again, it has got immunomodulatory action in brain. So antihistaminic drugs, which is going to counteract the actions of H1 and H2 receptors on various tissues, like on H1, which are predominantly present on the respiratory smooth muscles. So they are going to contract the smooth muscle contraction, in which is being seen in anaphylactic shock. They have an important role to play. And vascularly inhibits vasoconstrictory actions of histamine, and it causes vasodilatation. Capillary permeability. Now, this through H1 receptors, the H1 receptor antagonists like antihistaminic drugs inhibit the permeability of capillaries, relieves edema and wheal at the site of injury. And a remarkable classical example is triple response when histamine is given intradermally. It causes red spot. So it is about few millimeters across the injection site, which is being accompanied by flare, which is a, a few centimeters of redness, and then we have wheal, which is induration at the site of injection of histamine. So this is called as triple response. The red spot and flare is due to vasodilatation, and of course we have wheal, which is due to leakage of plasma. So all these leads to release of different mediators of inflammation, and this is called as triple response. So antihistaminic drugs is going to counteract this triple response, especially seen in anaphylactic reactions. On exogenous glands, histamine is producing increased salivary lacrimal secretions. So antihistaminic drugs are going to counteract all these secretions. It decreases our respiratory secretion, and this is an important role to play in bronchial asthma. H1 receptor antagonists, they do not have any role in gastric acid secretion because where we have H2 receptors. So how they are being classified? Now, initially they were being classified as sedative and non-sedative, but now H1 receptor antagonists are classified according to the chemical structures. Like we have first group of drugs, diphenhydramine, dimenhydrinate, and clemastine. We have ethylene diamines, we have pyramine malate, we have alkylamines, chloropheneramine, pheneramine, and brompheniramine. Piperazines, hydroxyzine, cyclizine, maclizine, phenothiazine. This is a chemical structure, and the drug is promethazine, 5-HT receptor antagonist, ciprofloxacin, and tricyclic antidepressant. Now, this also comes under first generation and antihistaminic drugs like doxepin. This is a tricyclic antidepressant, which we'll see in later slides the role of all these drugs. Second generation H1 receptor antagonists are also called as non-sedating because they do not cross the blood-brain barrier. So comparatively, they are safer than H1 receptor antagonists because they do not cause sluggishness and sedation and drowsiness as being seen with the H1 receptor antagonists. The different drugs in this category are loratadine, desloratadine, cetirizine, levocetirizine, fexofenadine, azilastine, terfenadine and estimazole. So terfenadine and estimazole, they were causing arrhythmias and they are being banned. Fexofenadine is again a metabolite of terfenadine, but it does not cause arrhythmias and it's clinically used. So first generation antihistaminic drugs, they also exhibit antimuscarinic actions. Like they block M1 and M3 receptors, and these anticholinergic actions are basically leading to side effects of first generation antihistaminic drugs. Whereas second generation antihistaminic drugs, they do not cause antimuscarinic actions. There's a drug promethazine, first generation antihistaminic drug, which is again having a local anesthetic action also. H2 receptor antagonists, which is H2 receptors, as I mentioned, they are responsible for gastric acid secretion. They have a role to play in peptic ulcer. So all these drugs like cimetidine, rentidine, formatidine, nazatidine, or roxetidine, they are reversibly or competitively blocking H2 receptors, and they have an important role to play in peptic ulcer because they block the secretion of gastric acid secretion in peptic acid diseases. So H2 receptor are competitive inhibitors of H2 receptors in GIT, and they reduce the secretion by 60 to 70% in 10 years. Important point to note is that they have an important role to play the gastric acid secretion which is at basal level, then being produced after the meals. So 90% of the nocturnal acid secretion is being inhibited as compared to 60 to 70% which is being produced after meals. So they are being given at bedtime because we are targeting the nocturnal acid secretion. There are different metabolites which are being excreted by kidney and glomerular filtration. So one has to be very careful and reduce the dose in case of patients which having renal insufficiency and the renal functions are compromised. They have few side effects, but cimetidine, as it inhibits cytochrome P450 enzyme. So there are other drugs which are going to inhibit cytochrome P450, which will increase the toxicity of cimetidine. So it has to be cautiously used with other drugs which are potent drug interactions. So coming again to first generation H1 receptor antagonist, they are absorbed from GIT. They can be given parenterally and topically, and most of them are appear distributed throughout the body, and they can be used prophylactically also in case of anaphylactic reactions, in case of hypersensitivity reactions. Most of them are metabolized by cytochrome 450 enzymes in the liver, and they are auto regulator. I mean, they are going to stimulate their own metabolism. So with time the therapeutic efficacy is compromised, is decreased because they are auto regulator of their own metabolism. So widely used because they are ineffective and inexpensive. They are effective and inexpensive. The only drawback is it gets penetrated into the CNS. It causes drowsiness, causes sedation and sluggishness, and it interacts with other receptors like M1 and M3 receptors, anticholinergic actions, and alpha adrenergic actions also, and it leads to various unwanted side effects. We'll see in later slides now. So sedation is one of the major side effects of first generation antihistaminic drugs, and it should be given in therapeutic doses because if we increase the dose, it may lead to restlessness, nervousness, insomnia, and even convulsions also. So all first and first order or first order of antihistaminic drugs, they are also called as conventional or old antihistaminic drugs. The only problem is they cause diminution of alertness, slow reaction time, and somnolence. Whereas second generation are non-sedative, they specifically act on H1 receptors, they do not act on M1 and M3 receptors, so they do not cause anticholinergic actions or alpha adrenergic blocking activity. They do not cause the blood-brain barrier like we have loratadine, fexofenadine. Because H1 receptor antagonists, they cause dizziness, sedation, fatigue, slowness of movement. Anticholinergic actions are through M1 and M3 receptors, which leads to dryness of mouth, urinary retention, and tachycardia. And alpha-adrenergic blocking activity, which leads to postural hypotension, reflex tachycardia. These are the important side effects to know. And serotonin receptor blocking activity, 5-HT receptor and 5-HT receptor blocking activity leads to increased appetite. We have cypropattidine, which is being used in children as well as adult to increase or to stimulate appetite. So the clinical uses of H1 receptor antagonist are, they are basically used for allergic conditions and drugs which have less sedative and do not have anti-muscarinic actions like cetirizine and fexofenadine are preferred as compared to your first generation antihistaminic drugs. They are also being used as antiemetic agents and used for motion sickness also. Now, hydroxyzine is a first generation antihistaminic which is used because it blocks M1 receptors in brain also. So this is an important role to play as anti-motion sickness and antiemetic agent also. In children, there is an important role because they play H1 receptor antagonists, they cause sedation. So hyperkinetic children, one of the indication where you can use promethazine, it is used an antipyretic agent also, anti-pruritic agent also in children, promethazine and diphenhydramine because they cause sedation also. So important point to note is whenever we are using H1 receptor antagonists, especially first generation, one has to be careful that the individual is not in a job which needs alertness because it is going to compromise the alertness and it may lead to accidents if you are using in individuals who are using in skill jobs. H then we have serotonin, like we have cypropattidine, which is a 5-HT receptor antagonist. As being told, it stimulates your appetite used in children and adults. Loratadine and cetirizine, which has got a long duration of action, and they are being used as once daily dosing. So therapeutic uses of H1 receptor and H2 receptor antagonists, mainly allergic diseases, acute rhinitis, urticarias, conjunctivitis, anaphylactic reactions, as their use along with adrenaline because the other mediators of inflammation like substance P, slower active substance, and your prostaglandins, which are not being contracted by antihistaminic drugs. So we have to use adrenaline also. Then severe angioedema, hay fever, polynosis, which leads to sneezing, rhinorrhea, itching of nose and throat, allergic dermatitis, chronic urticarias, pruritus, atopic dermatitis, contact dermatitis because it's a mechanical form which is leads to release of histamine, insect bites like we have wasp bite or mosquito bite, serum sickness, common cold, motion sickness as an anti-vertigo agent. They're also being used like uh, conventional antihistaminic drugs. They are also used to reverse the extraepidermal symptoms of phenothiazines, like antipsychotic agents. Those they also used as hypnotic drugs, over-the-counter agents. The major side effects are because they act on other receptors also, M1 and M3, and they have alpha-adrenergic blocking activity also. The major side effects are sedation, dizziness, tinnitus, incoordination, fatigue, blood vision, diplopia, euphoria, nervousness, insomnia, and tremors. So, distress, constipation, and diarrhea. Increase appetite because histamine decreases appetite. So, H1 receptor antagonists are mainly responsible for increasing appetite and weight gain, like cypropattidine, which is used in children and adults. Dryness of mouth through M1 and M3 receptors, mutagenicity like melanoma and fibrosarcoma, which is seen in mouse. Photosensitization, which is because topically they are used, and in case of allergic dermatitis. So contraindications, in patients of liver disease, because it's being metabolized in liver, cytochrome P450 should not be used with other CNS depressants like alcohol and other sedative agents because it will have an additive effect. Patients having history of orthostatic hypertension, because they have alpha adrenergic activity, so it will further lead to more hypotension. Elderly people where they are having a retention of urinary problems, so anticholinergic activity is more pronounced, and they should be used, especially the H2 receptor antagonist should be cautiously used with antifungals like itraconazole and ketoconazole, because these drugs are being metabolized by CYP3A, and antifungal agents like ketoconazole or itraconazole, it inhibits CYP3 enzyme, so it will increase the toxicity of your cimetidine or ranitidine. Of course, again, this should be used cautiously with erythromycin. So the clinical implications, it should be recommended only in a therapeutic dose. All H1 and H2 receptor antagonists should be given at bedtime, because H2 receptor antagonists are going to decrease the nocturnal secretion of gastric acid, and H1 receptor antagonists are used at bedtime because it causes sedation and dizziness. So it should be kept away from children because it can lead to poisoning. So overall, we have seen the action of histamine, what are antihistaminic drugs, what are their side effects, and what are their clinical indications. So this finishes the topic of histamine and antihistaminic drugs. Thank you.